Joining me right now is UFC light heavyweight Tyson Pedro. What's going on? Welcome to Kumite Radio.
I love it. Thanks for having me, brother. Kumite, I like it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, first of all, going back to your last fight, UFC 215, last September 2017. I read that you learned more from that fight than you did from your first 6 wins. What did that really mean?
Just to break it down real easy, I went home after I won my last fights and had beers and drank beers and just celebrated. When you're winning, you don't feel like you need to focus on anything else except keep doing what you're doing because you're already doing something right. When I took the loss, I knew that I had to upskill some stuff and work on myself. So I went back home, got to work, started upskilling some of my stuff that I was working on. With the last few fights, I was just concentrating on my opponent. After this one, I concentrated on myself.
Now, what did you necessarily work on? What did you see in yourself when you watched the tape that you needed to go back and, I got to focus on this particular thing?
Yeah, there was a lot of little stuff, but instead of focusing on my opponent's weaknesses, I started focusing on what got me to the UFC in the first place. Started going back to my footwork, my drills, my ground game, my it was technically that last fight. I'm there technically, but it was more of a strategy thing. So there was a couple of things that I was working on that camp that because I was so focused on them, I didn't go back to stuff that I normally do really well, like my top game and stuff like that. So I ended up just going to my back and trying to do get-ups that we had worked on, knowing that he was a hard wrestler instead of just focusing on my strengths.
Yeah. Now, it's been 4 months. You've been a busy man, I've noticed. And I wanted to talk about, what have you been up to?
Training nonstop. I've been loving it. I've just gone to everything: old boxing coaches, kickboxing coaches, wrestling coaches. I didn't get to go back to Jackson's this camp just to sponsorships fell through and stuff like that. So it probably would have been harder anyway. So it worked out me being here. Got to train with Robert Whittaker, and it was winter over there. So there was a lot of different factors that ended up working out well being here. But also we started a podcast with Tyson Pedro, who I believe was on your show as well. So a lot of cool things. Before I was just focusing on fights, then afterwards rest and relax, and then go into another fight. Now I'm sort of focusing on what's there going to be to do after fighting, maybe doing little businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were working with Robert Whittaker. It's unfortunate the news that came out about him, but when you were working with him, what did you get from him while working with him?
He's an animal, man. I loved training with him. Plus, I love humble people that just want to train hard. That's the best thing about him. And I mentioned before, the difference for me with him, he's just got that non-stop work ethic, and also his scrambling, his in the wrestle. Like you got to take him down, and all of a sudden, you get the takedown maybe, but he's behind you on his feet, ready to go again. So he's like a cat, always ends up on his feet.
For sure, that's why he's the champion, right?
Exactly.
And I see that you've been going out, going to the States often. You mentioned Jackson's, and I see that you've been to Texas too. What is the benefits of you going stateside and working with these guys?
I went for Arlene Blencow. She fought for the Bellator. I couldn't tell you what weight division, but Bellator title. I just went to go help her out. She asked me to come along, so it was cool to support her. She's from my team down here in Sydney. But Jackson's as well. It was always a dream for me to go there since I was a kid. So that's the biggest thing. Just fulfilling my dreams, man, and getting to train with the best in the world. That's what I wanted to do as a fighter. I wanted to go travel around the world and train with the best and fight the best.
Now, you also said you started the Halfcaste Podcast. Now, why is it called the Halfcaste Podcast?
We're both half-caste, so we're both. He's Samoan Aboriginal, and I'm Samoan Australian. So I think there's actually there's something called the Halfcaste Podcast, but we're called the Halfcaste Podcast. So we probably should have looked into that beforehand. Someone told us afterwards, but it's been cool, man, and it's starting to progress really quick. Just with people that we've got on, and even it's just changing from what the original goal was of the podcast. So it's been cool to do. We're getting to meet some really cool people.
Doing the podcast, it must help you get better at speaking and putting your words together. Do you see that like progressing as you're doing the podcast?
Yeah, and just getting comfortable in speaking. Like, you don't really realize it, even if you are speaking badly, until you watch it back. And you can be on Fox Sports and you're thinking, man, I killed that. And then you watch it back and go, I sound like an idiot. So it's just getting comfortable with talking and also being able to self-correct yourself before someone makes you look like an idiot.
Yeah, speaking about talking, being comfortable speaking in front of people, you were at the GQ Men of the Year. And can you tell me about that experience?
Yeah, man, that was like probably the most nerve-wracking experience I've ever had. I was confident as I was like, I've got this. I'm gonna nail this. And then I got up on stage, and then I realized, oh shit. Then the sweat started kicking in, the shakes, and I was like, I'm gonna mess this up. So lucky I did all right. It wasn't the best, but it was good to be in front of a lot of other people that are like, especially you see there's people that are actors, some of the best men like in Australia there for awards. So that was a huge opportunity and pretty fun. Wouldn't mind doing some more stuff like that, especially when they have me on GQ.
For sure, man. That's like every guy's dream, right? You gotta,
exactly.
if you could get on GQ, you gotta get on GQ, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I also saw that during Christmas, you went out to the Sydney Children's Hospital. You handed out presents. That's something that many athletes are doing nowadays. It's something that helps the kids. It helps the hospital. It brings attention to, those types of things. What was that experience like?
That's some of my favorite stuff to do. I actually don't really like taking all the photos and videos, but at the same note, we put up all these bad videos. So why isn't it why can't we put up these good videos and make sure that message is getting out? So I'm all for people putting up these good videos of them doing good. It shares and spreads the word. And man, I've got a soft spot when it comes to kids. I always want to go do stuff for them. And if anyone ever has stuff for me to do, that's some of my favorite charity stuff to do. I don't know what it is. I guess having sometimes a hard upbringing as a kid, and you just look at these kids and go, man, mine was nothing compared to what some of these kids are going through. So can't even explain how much they're full warriors, and big soft spot for them.
For sure, man. Like the children is big for the athletes and people that are in the spotlight to go out there and help them as much as they can, right?
If we've got that opportunity to put it out there and to show other people that they can help too, why not?
All right. Now let's go back to the MMA, the light heavyweight division. In DC, the champion, he's going to move up to heavyweight and fight Stipe. What do you think about that matchup?
It's a good matchup. DC's a beast, and he's able to go in between heavyweight and light heavyweight so easily. Me, on the other hand, I'm way too far away from heavyweight to even go up. I walk around almost that weight. So I have a feeling DC might beat him. So Stipe's a beast, but I think his wrestling might just get him. So I hope so. I hope so. That's a sick thing to have, light heavyweight and heavyweight belts. A sick fight.
Yeah, it's legend status, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now
I'm sure John Jones will come back and try and hit that up straight away.
Yeah, right away, right?
Yeah.
Now they're gonna be doing the Ultimate Fighter show, and then they're gonna fight. So it leaves a lot of time for the division to kind of unfold. Where do you see yourself, your position in the division?
I want to go for shot for that title in 2019. It's a very open division. There's so many opportunities for light heavyweights, and like you saw with Volkan, what was that, 3 or 4 fights, and he's almost there. So big opportunities, and I've got a lot to learn, but I really feel like it's 2 years will be enough time.
Yeah, it seems like you are one of the guys that are kind of under the radar, but 1 or 2 wins, you could just be right there in the spotlight, contending for the title, especially with DC he's gonna be out for a while, right?
Yep. So, and I hope so. Bring that spotlight, baby.
So you're in a training camp right now for UFC 221. You're working with Mark Hunt, Tai Tuivasa, you mentioned earlier. All of you guys are going to be on the same card. How beneficial is that for you to be training with the guys that are fighting on the same night?
Like I haven't trained with Ty and Mark as much this time, but I went up to Gold Coast, did some stuff with them. But it's always good to be around other people that are in kill mode. So where sometimes when you're in camp and your training partners just training, they're not really in that same mentality. So when everyone's in kill mode and just want to go, it's the best thing. Everyone's amped. But now I'm back in Sydney. I've been doing a lot of work with other gyms and other fighters, and I don't know. I've always got the same motivation to train hard, so we still get it. The difference is being on the fight card with Mark and Ty. That's the big thing for me.
Now UFC 221, February 11th, you're gonna face Saparbek Safarov, right? Hard name to say.
Is that his name?
Yes.
Safarov.
Yeah.
Safarov. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know his name, brother. Right? I think I only knew Safarov.
Are you a film guy? Do you watch a lot of film on your opponents, or do you just let your coaches handle all that stuff?
I let my coaches watch most of it. I'll probably watch a little bit more this week. I try, if it was a championship fight, for sure, I'd watch a lot more. But when you have, like you've seen in the UFC, how much pullouts there are or change of opponents, I try not to get caught up on too much who the opponent's going to be or what it is. So maybe have a little look at their weaknesses or something that they do a lot. But I try to stay away too much from getting caught up on who it is and just focus on myself.
You and him have had kind of like a parallel careers in a way. You guys both came up. If you look at your records, you guys can finish on the ground. You could finish standing up. You finished all your fights, right? And both of you guys are coming off a loss. All that, build up right there. Do you think it's something that could create fireworks for you and this fight?
I hope so, because I'm coming for that bonus. But I don't know. I'm coming in hard. I'm just trying to finish my opponent every time. Doesn't matter who it is, what their record is, what they're doing. I'm coming in to finish you and hurt you. So I'm sure he's going to try and bring the same, but I'm planning on hurting him more.
Yeah, your opponent, he hasn't fought since December of 2016. Do you believe in ring rust?
It's definitely a thing. It's but on the same note, if you're good, it doesn't really matter. So, like there are little things that you might get, but if you're a fighter, you're coming in to fight. Like if you fall into the little mental battles with, I didn't eat right, or I got this, that you're always going to have a hard night in the office. But a real fighter knows they're always going to come in and fight.
For sure. Now, when you look at this fight coming up, do you expect a long, drawn-out fight? Of course, you want to finish it quick, but in your mind, do you expect a long, drawn-out fight, or do you see holes in his game to the point where, like, hey, it's going to be a pretty good night for myself?
Fuck, I hope not. I try and come in, go in the first round, but I don't want to be in there for 3 long rounds. Not that I can't fight it, but why fight 3 rounds when you can finish it in 1? There's definitely holes in his game. He's probably going to think there's holes in my game, but I'm going to make the holes bigger. For
sure. Now, one last question before I let you go. I saw you playing the piano. Do you got a hidden talent, or what's up with that?
Man, my mum was really big on education, and she made me try everything as a kid. I was doing all the fighting with my dad, but my mum was pushing me into tennis, trying to push me into volleyball, clarinet, piano. So I got a little taste of everything. Very thankful to my parents for that. But I always came back to fighting. So that's pretty much the only song I can play on the piano. I'll try and get back into it eventually.
For sure. Do you think learning all of those different things has helped you in your fight career?
Definitely. I got to try a lot of different sports. When people say naturally talented, it's not really naturally talented when I got to try everything. So I'm very thankful to that. My mum was big on the education side. Like I said, my dad was big on the sports side, still wanted me to go. I got to try everything as a kid. I was very lucky. And then I went through like a little bit of a hard stage as I got older. So I got to learn about myself there as well. Just very blessed and on how my life turned out, and just kept working hard, and now I'm where I'm at. So now I get to show it in the world stage and hopefully make a difference.
February 11th, UFC 221, Tyson Pedro versus Saparbek Safarov on the main card. You know what I mean? On the main card, it's your
Yeah.
time to shine. You know, good
Yeah.
luck, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me.